And I'm here with Bo Nickal. Bo Nickal fighting Jamie Pickett this weekend. Bo, this is a huge fight. Opening up a pay-per-view. You got John Jones versus Cyril Gane, and it's your UFC debut.
Yeah.
I mean, come on.
Yeah, pretty crazy. You know, I didn't, it's kind of been a whirlwind. I only started MMA a year and a half ago, and so to get to this point right now, it's like pretty wild.
You started MMA. I mean, I know, we all know about your wrestling accolades, but still, MMA a year and a half ago.
Yeah, a year and a half, and now I'm, you know, making my UFC debut in a main card, and John Jones nonetheless. And yeah, I'm just really grateful overall. Like this whole process and experience and everything that's happened is something that I just appreciate. And I'm just looking forward to making the most of this opportunity because, yeah, like you said, I have a really big opportunity.
Well, you're not here by accident, though, are you? No. You know what I mean? You say you're grateful, and of course, that is the right attitude to have. But what age were you when you started wrestling?
5
years old,
yeah.
And you've probably been training your ass off your entire life, right?
Yeah. You know, I think that one thing that is a little different about me than most people is, you know I started when I was 5, but as a kid, I was really super focused. Like, I really was able to, like, set goals and visualize and, like, make that, like, a priority at really young. You know, I think generally when you see kids get serious about their sport, they're, you know, in high school or even later sometimes, and they're still able to perform at a high level. But for me, being 7, 8 years old, already having big goals of being a state champion, being an NCAA champion, world champion, I was not only like said those things and wrote those things down, but I really committed to it in my lifestyle. So when other kids were thinking about, you know, whose birthday party they were going to go to, I was thinking about, like, what wrestling match am I going to go to? And I was studying film at a young age and just really wanted to get better. And that was all my choice, all just like something that I was passionate about that I wanted to pursue. That's insane.
That's insane. No, and it's impressive. It's because I'm sure as you grow it up, like when I started martial arts as a kid, and it was nothing like wrestling, has nowhere near the discipline or the training regimen, anything like that, to be honest. And I've only discovered that since my son has been wrestling in the States. I see how valuable it is and how hard it is. But when I got to like 15, 16, all of that kind of went out the window for me because I discovered alcohol.
Right, yeah.
And I started hanging out with my friends and the boys and just living that kind of life. Yeah. Was that never a temptation in those years?
You know, it was. I'll say, like, through high school, it was kind of something where, you know, you're learning more about yourself, of like, you know, kind of starting to almost become your own person, right? Like, you know, for me, my dad being a wrestling coach, I was always with him, and I didn't really, and it was my choice to, like, compete and stuff, but he was there supporting me, right? I always had a ton of support. And then, you know, through high school, you kind of start having to make some of your own decisions and things like that. And I basically got to a point where I was like, you know, what are my priorities? What do I want to, like, be the most important thing to me as far as my goals go? And the answer was, like, I want to be a 4-time undefeated national champion in college. And so I decided, like, I'm not drinking a sip of alcohol. I'm staying away from all of that. And I did for 5 straight years through college. Never went to a bar, never partied, never drank. And I was just all in, fully committed and focused. And I think that was something that I'm really grateful that I made that decision. But at the same time, I think that I just learned so many other lessons and so much about life just through the experience of, like, being in a college wrestling team and being in a program like Penn State. And so that was, I think, definitely, like, a good, like, kind of foresight that I had. And it even strengthened the correlation in my mind between discipline and achieving my goals, you know, because I did achieve a lot of what I wanted to in college. Not everything I wanted to, but I could see that correlation that had started from a young age where I was like, okay, if I'm disciplined and I do everything right and I study and I work hard, then I get good results. It just kind of was continually reinforced for me.
Yeah, well, it doesn't happen by accident, does it? You know what I mean? And some people, I think John Jones might be a good example.
Definitely.
So naturally talented, you know, and don't get me wrong, he's essentially undefeated still, and he's fighting for the heavyweight belt, so it's not like his career went bad. No. But I think some people, when they have natural talent, which you clearly have, but then they get complacent because of that, it can lead them down the wrong path. So all that hard work has led to this moment anyway. So anyone that was bitching at college saying you're being boring and all the rest of it, what are they doing right now? You're about to open a pay-per-view. I mean, that's insane.
Yeah, super insane. You know, the idea of, like, being on a main card, opening a pay-per-view is, in my UFC debut, is, like, it's pretty crazy. You know, I don't think there's very many fighters that have had that opportunity. And so, you know, like I said at the beginning, I always look at just gratitude, and that's a principle that we preach at Penn State that's such like almost like a pillar of everything that our coaches talk about. And so for me, it's always coming back to that. And I think that helps you really embrace the moment fully versus if you're in a state of, feeling like maybe the moment's being is too big for you or whatever it is. If you're not really truly appreciating it, then you're just not going to put the best version of yourself out there. And so I continue to just think about gratitude and the opportunity that I have. And then from there, it's just taking care of biz. And, it's my responsibility to win. It's not my coaches. It's not my training partners. It's not my families. It's me. And the guy that wins the fight isn't the guy that worked the hardest in the camp. It's not the guy with the most heart. It's the guy that just wins the fight. And so I'm just focused on winning the fight and putting on a great performance.
And again, I'll go back to the wrestling because that lifestyle, and you can clearly see when you talk to you, the discipline that you have. Because in the UK, we have a wrestling program, but it's nothing like here in the States. And I wasn't a part of it. My son wasn't a part of it until we came out here. And I've really seen like how it's helped mold him into such a great young man. And I'm forever indebted to his coaches and stuff. So you can see what that's done to you, the structure as well. When you were on The Contender, you smashed through your first opponent. You put everyone on notice. You came back. You smashed everybody again. 3 fights, 3 professional fights, and we're in this situation.
Yeah.
You're very confident in your ability, and rightly so. Did you think it would happen this quick?
No way. Yeah. In my opinion, I thought I was going to have 5 or 6 fights before I got to this point, and a lot more experience. But God had different plans for me, and UFC had different plans for me, and my management team. Everybody, we talked and made this decision, and so we're here now, and it's definitely something that it's on my mind a lot as far as like the experience and stuff, and I want to continue to grow and develop and improve as a fighter and not rush things or skip steps. But being in this position is definitely unprecedented, but I feel like my whole life I've kind of been in a situation like this where I'm trying to achieve unprecedented things. And so if I want to do that, I have to be in these positions and kind of be the first one to trailblaze it and figure it out.
Well, I think you told me when you came on my podcast, you're kind of used to these big arenas, right? I mean, what's the biggest crowd you wrestled in?
Yeah, I mean, a normal weekend for me was probably like between 12 and 15,000 people. And, for the NCAA tournament, you get 25, 30,000 in an arena.
Wow.
And I feel
is that what breaks people sometimes?
Definitely. Yeah. Well, I look at even myself and going back to my freshman year in college, making the NCAA finals, I competed in Madison Square Garden.
There he is, Daniel Cormier. Hey. How do you rate DC as a wrestler?
As a wrestler?
Like compared to you.
Like if we wrestled?
If you wrestled.
First period pin.
A first period pin. I agree.
Yeah.
But like in terms of I
have a good track record against
the greatest wrestlers of all time. Where would DC? We wouldn't even be on the list, would it?
Greatest wrestlers of all time?
In the UFC, he would have made the list.
UFC? I don't know. You got some pretty solid guys in there.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I know, DC.
You can wrestle
He's not saying good things about you, buddy. He's not saying good things. I mean, he has no discipline. We know this. Jamie Pickett.
Yeah.
Talk to me. I mean, Jamie's a great guy. He's had some mixed results in the UFC.
Right.
Obviously, anybody knows if they're fighting you, it's going to be takedown defense all day, getting back to their feet. That's what I would be doing the entire training camp.
For sure.
What would you say to that?
Yeah, I think that you're absolutely spot on. Like, that's what he needs to be trained. That's what he needs to work on because at the end of the day, with my skills, I can make it a wrestling match if I want to. And we all know who wins that. And so, while he can train all he wants as far as the wrestling goes, like, I don't think that he can make up 20 plus years in that amount of time. And so, really, I don't see a lot of paths to victory for him. Knocking me out obviously is one.
Sure, of
always,
course.
Right? Like there's always that risk when you're in an MMA fight and it's very volatile. And so that's kind of his path to victory and my path to victory. There's many different ways to do it. Yeah.
When I was when I was competing, I trained with a wrestler called Brandon Halsey. I don't know if you know who that is. Brandon.
I do. Yeah.
He was very good, but against the fence, it's a different world.
Yeah.
It's different to a wrestling arena. Like my son, I drive him crazy because when we would wrestle, I'd push him up against the wall and then I'd scoop up his legs and I'd take him down. He's like, "You can't do that, Dad." I'm like, "Well, we can in MMA."
Yeah.
So against the fence, you can lean against the fence, dig whizzes and all the rest of it. How much attention and focus have you given to that area? Because it's a new area, right, for wrestling.
Yeah, well, it's definitely new, and I do spend a lot of time working on the fence, and it's interesting because for me, I'm obviously very competitive. I want to win, and when we wrestle in the wrestling room, when I was coming through college, I'd be wrestling guys like Cael Sanderson, Casey Cunningham, my coaches, and they're competitive too, right?
Yeah,
and so,
of course.
you know, when it came down to it, like we both want to win, we both want to score a takedown. If we go on the wall, we're not stopping, right? It's not like you see most guys, they hit the wall and then they're like, all right, break, go back to the center. Like, wasn't like that for us.
Oh, so you're used to that a little bit.
Used to that for sure. Like there would be times when we would wrestle on the wall for an hour straight, like just in college and stuff. And so luckily, like that kind of worked out to where it was like more normal for me. But you even see them today, they'll wrestle each other or they'll wrestle guys and they'll be on the wall, like using the wall like they're in an MMA fight. So that's something that's not like, it's not a completely new thing to me.
What's harder in your opinion, training for a level of fight like this in the UFC or getting ready for the highest level of a wrestling tournament? Or is it kind of different?
There are definitely there's a lot of similarities. There's some differences. I would say that, I don't know that, I would say wrestling is probably a little harder just because the sport's been going on for so long, right? And there's so many different groups of people and teams that have systems and things in place to like really make sure that their wrestlers prepared, right? Whereas the UFC and MMA, you know, this has only been a sport for 30 years and everybody's kind of on their own. We're still figuring it. Yeah, it's still evolving. Everybody's still figuring it out. And so I think like, but it's all relative to each other, right? And so the pressure and the media attention and everything that is on the UFC is more, I just think wrestling as a sport overall has had a longer time to develop.
Obviously, as a wrestler, you love getting a hold of someone and securing a beautiful takedown and making it look all nice and flashy. But when you land a shot with the hands, it feels good, right?
Man,
have you been clocking some people in sparring and you get that connection and you're like, oh, that feels good.
It feels great. Yeah. I love learning striking and, you know, I feel like for me, being able to kind of start with a blank slate and learn boxing, learn Muay Thai, learn kickboxing, that's like really, really fun because I love learning new things. And being able to like land punches and connect and when things work out, it's just so beautiful. I really enjoy it.
And because of who you are, and I don't mean that in a condescending way, I'm assuming you have access to some of the best coaches, right?
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because you're Bo Nickal. You know, you're coming into this with a tremendous amount of hype and people will kind of want to attach themselves to you. So you've probably got access to the best coaches. There's a danger, though. Sometimes wrestlers, you know, they forget that they abandon their wrestling because they land that shot. It starts to feel good because you're clearly, you know, a top of the food chain athlete, so you've got knockout power. And when you land that, you know, they abandon the wrestling. Will that happen to you?
No shot. You know, that's a big reason why I started gym in Pennsylvania, and I still train with the Penn State wrestling team every day. So not only do I have access to all the resources that ATT has with coaches and guys from different disciplines, you know, I'm still at the best wrestling place in the world, you know, and I'm still day in, day out grinding with the college guys, grinding with the senior level guys and the coaches, and I'm able to keep that sharp. And so, there's no chance I'll abandon my wrestling just because I've learned from a lot of people that have come up the ranks as wrestlers, and you see them kind of abandon their wrestling, and then it's just like such a 50-50 fight, right? Like, why would I abandon something that I've done for 20 plus years and I'm going to have the advantage? Like, I'm not here to, there's part of the sport that's entertainment, but I'm really here to win at the end of the day. Like, my focus is winning, and I'm going to choose the path of
least resistance. Exactly, that's what it's all about. So Saturday night, Jamie Pickett, obviously you have respect for this guy. You don't seem like a guy that's a trash talker or a disrespectful kind of guy. How does this end?
Yeah, you know, I think that it ends in a finish, probably first round. I don't think that he has a good chance to defend takedowns, regardless of who he's been training with. I don't think that...
I think he's been up there with Chris Weidman and people like that.
He's been with Weidman, so, you know, somewhat of a wrestling feel, but I don't think that's
do you kind of like, with respect, chuckle a little bit? You're like, oh, really? Oh, that's cute.
Yeah,
You've been working on a little takedown defense. I've been doing this since I was 5 years old.
Yeah, you know, somewhat.
And that's not aimed at Chris Weidman, by the way. I'm just talking about in general,
do feel like
that concept.
Yeah, for sure. You know, and it's funny because, you know, obviously the guy's going to bring a wrestler in to kind of help him, but, you know, that's like, you train 8 weeks. Like, how are you going to beat somebody that trained for 20 plus years? Like, it's just not realistic. And so, I predict probably a finish, you know, TKO. Maybe I'll knock him out. He's too worried about the wrestling. I might land a big shot on him, or you know, submission, obviously.
2 more questions, then I'll let you get out of here. When you look at the middleweight division, of course, everybody wants to be the champ. Right now, Pereira's the champ. Before that, it was Israel Adesanya. Maybe Izzy gets the belt back. Neither guy are particularly good wrestlers. You know, and we saw Alex Pereira get taken down by Izzy. With respect, it wasn't a high-level grappling.
No.
You know, when you see that, how excited does that make you?
Yeah, I think there's definitely a clear path for me to get to the belt, right? And, both those guys are super high-level fighters and tough dudes, but I think if you look at my style and their style, it obviously is a great matchup for me. That being said, at any point in an MMA fight, you can get knocked out. You always have to be ready. You always have to make sure that you're on your guard. And so, that's what's in my mind. But I think that, a matchup with any striking-based guy will go really well for me.
Yep. And then, of course, again, once miss you, Las Vegas, the fight capital of the world, the T-Mobile Arena, UFC 285, Jon Jones returning after 3 years. This is huge. Main event prediction. What do you think?
Yeah, first off, it's going to be an awesome fight. Just any card that Jon Jones on, automatically the energy is increased and everything is exciting. And, with that being said, I definitely think that Jones is going to put on a great performance, and I predict him getting the win. So I think that Cyril probably won't be able to handle the wrestling, and I think Jon's just a winner. So he's gonna the same mindset that I had as far as path of least resistance. I think that he's gonna take him down, especially having a long time to lay off. His last few fights, he had been striking a lot. I think that he'll have time to kind of. Like, he just needs to win this fight, right? Like, he doesn't need to show striking, and I think that's what he's going to do. He's going to take him down. He's going to win the fight. Yeah,
if it stays on the feet, he could get knocked out. Cyril's a dangerous striker, and it does often in mixed martial arts go back to that wrestling. I guess I'll end on this. When you were developing as a young man, and of course you were a talented wrestler, was mixed martial arts something that you kind of had one eye on, pardon the pun?
Oh, yeah, 100%. Nice, that was a good one. Yeah. Oh, but absolutely, yeah. I started watching MMA, watching the UFC as a young kid, I watched you on The Ultimate Fighter, crazy, so long time ago. But, so I always had one eye on it for sure, and I grew up, me and my friends, we would fight for fun. That was something that we enjoyed doing. So, I always thought that could be an option for me, and it could be something that I pursue. And then halfway through college, I was kind of at the point where I needed to